Okay, welcome to a Factorio speed-ish run. This is intended as a part guide and part just a playthrough to show you how to beat the game and get the time limited achievements on the way through doing it. Is it played well? No. Will it help a speedrunner? No. Only if they want to laugh at what not to do anyways. For any player, new or old, that hasn't yet got the Express Delivery achievement, beating Space Age in under 40 hours, this has got everything that you're going to need to know. I'll link all of the blueprints used, and as I play I'm going to assume you have them. As we go through the run, I'll show you how I go about doing a quick finish run. You know, the different ways that we set stuff up, what things we've done wrong, there's plenty in here. We'll make notes on what not to do, especially don't let your base get eaten the moment you leave, don't forget that you need iron plates for nuclear fuel, or you go into a power spiral, lots of fun things like that. But even with the odd cluster fluff, issues from poor planning, and even poorer thinking, you can still beat the game pretty easily in under 40 hours. So let's crack on and have a look at the easy way to do it. So first things first, checking my mods folder, got way too many in there. Let's just have the standard 3 for the DLC mods of Space Age, Quali, Elevator Rails, don't want anything else or it'll affect the achievements. And then starting a new game. Now this used to be a lot simpler because we could turn off pollution spread and never have to do a biters. That's not an option anymore, it disables achievements. So all we're going to do is turn up the ore patches just so that they don't run out, make our lives a lot easier. You'll see through the video we've got plenty of time, they could run out, we could set up a train network, but why put the work in? You just want a speedrun achievement, it's much easier just to do this. Turn off cliffs as well, just to make life easy. And make sure you get a screenshot of Navi so that you can find oil when you need it. Fulgora so you can find a good land mass with scrap on it. And Gleba so you can find jelly nut and Yamako. Hit preview, make sure the world looks okay. What we're looking for, have we got some nice patches near each other, not too far from water. So I want iron, copper, coal and stone pretty much overlapping and right near each other, otherwise we're going to spend ages running around. And here we are, all crashed up and on fire, sign of things to come, normal way to operate, looks absolutely fine to me. Now the start of a new world on Factorio never really changes. If you're going for a world record speedrun or something, absolutely it's completely different. But we're just going for the achievement here, it's not that hard, we don't need to worry. Any big rocks you see around, we want to hit them first. They give you a lot of coal very quickly, it makes your life a lot easier. And the next thing we want to do, get a burner miner down on the iron patch so that we're making those iron plates. Don't do what I've done here and forgotten to get the iron plates out of the ship. So if you press left alt on your keyboard, that means everything will show what is inside of it. So when you set a recipe on a machine, it will show you what it does. When there's stuff in a chest, you'll see what's there. This is a really common thing that a lot of people don't realise is part of the game their first time playing. Now what I did as I was running over there to place them is put a load of these items onto my hotbar. So you just press E to open the inventory, drag it down, click it on the hotbar. It's going to make your life a lot easier, especially if you do this with the coal. Now by default, the letter Z on the keyboard will allow you to place items on the floor or into machines. I've actually bound that to one of my mouse buttons, so I can just hold the mouse button and move the mouse back and forth over a furnace, and that way I'm constantly dropping coal in every time the mouse moves over it. Same for just here, all I've done is held control left click and I've grabbed the items that were in that ship now that I've remembered that they're up there. Now this early part of the game is just sort of running around back and forth. I'm just trying to make more iron plates so I can make more burner miners so I can make more iron plates. I've got loads of coal and stone from mining the rock, so I don't really need to worry about that too much. I just want to get as many burner miners down as I can, getting me loads of iron. And while I wait for the iron to be smelted, I run around and mine more rocks. Now the seeds are random, the amount of rocks is random, we can't rely on it, so we need to be mining coal as well. So we're going to build a coal snake, which is just these burner miners feeding into each other. So when they mine a piece of coal, they'll put it in the inventory of the other coal miner. That can max out at 100 per coal miner, so the more burner miners we have feeding into each other in a cycle, the more we can collect when we're off doing other stuff. And that other stuff, as you can see, I'm mining trees, so I've got wood to make power poles later, I'm mining rocks where I can, building more of these miners, and now we're going to have to go and get some stone as well so that we can create more furnaces. I'm also going to start mining some copper as well because we're going to need that just for some of the basic components at the start. We don't really need much copper to start with though, so 4 or 5 burner miners and furnaces, that'll do us for the next ages in the game. So now what we're going to do, rinse and repeat until we've got plenty of resources to move on to our next phase, which will be the first bit of science. So we've got plenty of resources now, we're going to go and set up power. So we're going to want a boiler, some steam engines, that's 2 engines per boiler. We're going to want the offshore pump to supply water to it, and we're going to need coal for fuel. We're then going to run that power down to where our base is so that it's easy to work with. We don't want our labs and things being miles away from us, that's a lot of aggro. So now that power's set up, we can drop our first lab and actually start getting some research going and get some progression on. The first research you always want to do is automation, funnily enough, in a game about automation. And to get this research, we need to use up 10 bottles of red science. Each one is going to take 10 seconds to go through the lab. So we're going to have to handcraft 10 of these red science, but once that's unlocked automation, we can use machines to do that for us. Following that glorious sound, we can now make assembling machines. So let's set up our first bit of automation and we'll have these red science packs made for us. Now, one assembly machine is going to make a science pack every 5 seconds, but most of the early research is only going to use one in 10 seconds, so it's worth having 2 labs to make sure we're using up the full amount we can, get that research done as quick as possible. Now, you could put this stuff in the assemblers by hand, but it's much easier to have a chest and an inserter. So we're going to put copper plates going into the machine making the science packs, and we'll have iron plates going into one making gears, which then goes into the one making science packs. And there we go, we have automated science, albeit this is what we would call hand-fed, because we have to remember to fill up those chests or everything's going to stop. And now it's automated, we want to get some other research queued up. So we want military so that we've got a better weapon for when the biters turn up. We want the belt logistics so that we can control what belts are doing with new parts. We want the electric miners so we can get some good progression going. And we want those gun turrets because they're going to help us massively when it comes to dealing with biters. Now I'm just setting up a bit more hand-fed automation here just to get belts on the go because they're really handy for us. We're going to use a huge amount of belts in this base, so the sooner we start them producing, the more we've got to play with. So while the science is cooking in the background, we want to have a look around, work out how we're going to lay out this base. Which direction are we going to go? What's the least obstacles in terms of water, resources, trees, things like that. So I'm going to come up to the north a bit and then off to the right hand side. So I'm just going to start dropping blueprints in to make my life easy. So the first blueprint I've got here is my start out mall. Pretty basic, but it means that all the things I'm going to need to create stuff, my inserters, my belts, all of that is being made for me constantly. So I can just go and grab them rather than handcrafting. This saves you an insane amount of time and it's absolutely essential when you're trying to do a quick run. Following them all, we want some furnace stacks down. So this is going to be 48 stone furnaces to fully saturate one yellow belt. I'm going to drop a couple there for iron. I'm going to stick one over the side here as well for copper. Now I'm not going to build the whole copper one yet because we just don't have that much copper demand. It's not worth my time to build it up full, but I'd much rather leave it there ready for later so that I've got the space marked out and I don't end up causing myself aggro. So we'll get some electric miners down, which we can use electrical power to make them put iron ore on the belt for us, and we'll take that up to the nerd terminology here, furnace stack. Now the idea of this, it's going to put iron ore and coal on the belt on both sides of these furnaces. As that's all poured into the furnace, it'll feed out onto the belt in the middle, so we get a full yellow belt of iron plates. So in case you're new to the game and you weren't aware, the belt has a left side and a right side, which are individual, they don't cross over, so we can have 2 separate resources on the same belt. Now that we've got electric miners on the coal patch, that means we've always got a belt of coal. We want to run that up to our power as well, because if we're not powering those boilers at the top, we're going to run out of electrical power, the whole base is going to fall over. So it's important to remember early on, make sure you automate your coal supply going to those boilers. And anyone experienced at the game is laughing at me here because they can see the problem I've made for myself. Rather than splitting off the coal before it goes to the furnace stack, I've now extended the belt coming out the furnace stack. So I've only got half a belt of coal maximum possible, and I've got another resource on it that shouldn't be there. Not the end of the world, but certainly not ideal. Now while you focus on building, remember to listen out for that sound, because if you miss that, we're running around not doing science, and everything comes to a standstill. So make sure you're paying attention, hit T to open up the technology screen, and queue up a load more science. Now at this point in the run, just get various stuff done. There's nothing we're specifically relying on, but we've got automated reds, we might as well get everything completed because some of them are going to unlock chains that we're going to need later on. So skipping ahead a second, we've got the first furnace stack fully done. We've got a full belt of iron plates coming out of it. We need to start utilising those plates. So we're going to run them into the starting mall. As I said, that's just going to be an area with a load of automation machines making all the basic things that we're going to want to build the rest of the base. So we're making belts, splitters, inserters, electric miners, pipes, undergrounds, and more assembly machines. Now you can have anything you want in a mall like this, but the more that you've got, if you're filling out boxes, it's going to keep using your resources for ages. You want to keep this to what's purely essential at this point, and this is something quite speedrun specific. A lot of people like to go for a big massive mall, it's got absolutely everything in it. We're going to do that later on in the game when we've got a lot more resources, but for now we just want to be able to get that base up and running as quickly as we possibly can. Now it's easy to get hyper-focused on what we're doing and forget about the rest of the base, so whenever you're done building something like this, really good idea, go and click on a power pole and see what you've done to your power. As you can see here, top left, we've got satisfaction, so everything's getting the juice it wants, but the production is pretty much maxed out. So if we try and use any more electricity, we're going to run into not having enough. That means all the miners will start running slow, so we won't generate enough coal ore, which means that eventually we'll go into a power spiral, where we don't have enough ore to feed the boilers, to get enough power, to keep mining the ore, till we're all dead. So it's really important to make sure that our production is always well above our consumption. Make sure we've always got a lot more than what we need available, otherwise we are going to run into trouble. So keep an eye on those power poles, go back and check. Now at this point I've noticed the contamination on the belt, so I'm just going to use an underground. I'm only going to use one. I'm going to place it and then hit R to change its direction. That means I can move items that are only on one side of that belt, so I can keep the coal coming through without the iron ore moving through. And now what I'm going to do is just put any inserter at the end of the belt. I'm going to put that going into a chest and then filter it to only pick up iron ore, and that will clear the belt for me. So I've just finished my second iron stack, and now what I'm going to do is start a bus. So that's just going to be belts that go straight across my base that I can pull resources off. When it comes to iron plate, we're going to use a lot, so I'm going to want 4 full belts of iron. And those belts are going to go into a balancer to make sure that it doesn't matter what's coming in on each belt, it will evenly distribute on the 4 coming out. I'm then going to leave 2 gaps below it, and then I can have the copper bus, and that means I've got enough room to get undergrounds between these, so I can move resources up and down past the bus. So I've now got 2 full belts of iron and a belt of copper. It's time to start building the base proper. So at this point we start throwing in blueprints. If you want to do a run quickly, you need good blueprints. It saves you so much time. Trying to design as you go just doesn't really work out unless you're doing the exact same thing every time and you've memorized it. The first thing I'm going to put down is my green circuits. This is going to use a huge amount of resources, so we want it right at the start of the bus so that we can just drop off a belt straight away. So even if we've got 4 belts of iron going in and say 4 belts of copper, we drop one of those and the rest of the bus after this is only going to be 3 because we're going to use so much of that resource in making these green circuits. But this is what we need for late game, and it's not even enough for that. For now, we absolutely don't need this rate of production, so I'm only going to do the first couple here. If you're new to the game, you can see from the layout here, it's 3 copper wire makers to 2 green circuit makers. And there's no need to put the copper wires onto a belt, just have them feed straight into the assemblers making the green circuits. It saves you moving around another thing. So now we've got a belt of green circuits, let's add it to the bus so it carries on through the base. We can use it for everything else later on. So we've got the 4 lanes for the iron, so I'm going to leave 2 gaps and then put this above that. And those iron lanes do need extending through the base as well, so all I'm going to do here, little cheeky copy paste. Control C gives you copy, Control V gives you paste. It's only a blueprint, it doesn't place the part, and it won't place if you're overlapping something, but if you hold shift that will force it to place anyway. Next blueprint, red and green science packs. Now this is a blueprint I made many years ago on a previous version of the game. It's always served me well. Is it the right number of things? Probably not, but it gets the job done. And in this we can see how we use a splitter to pull the copper off the bus, feed it under the other bus with undergrounds and then bring it up to where we need it. And as I was placing the assembly machines, some of them got in the wrong place, so I'm going to have to pick them up and then put new ones back down in the right place. Problem is the new ones now won't have a recipe set, and rather than me open it up and going through them, there's a nice little copy paste trick for recipes, which is shift right click to copy the recipe and shift left click to paste the recipe into a new machine. Now there's no point making science packs unless we've got labs to use them, so let's dump down a load more labs so we can get a lot more of them done faster, get the research done a lot quicker. Now these labs aren't that tidy, but they feed up from the bottom and across from the right hand side as well once I've placed them. There's so many ways to get all the sciences in. I normally use sushi belts or bots, but being this is a speed run, we want something quick that we can put down now and then ignore it for the rest of the game, so this will do. Speaking of ignoring things, we're currently getting lots of warnings. This is the first attack from our biter friends, the rather upset natives. But luckily we did that machine gun research early on, so it's very easy to deal with them at this point. So we'll fix the damage real quick, and then we're going to throw down some turrets, which are going to automatically target them if they come back to the same place once again. It means it's mostly defensive for now. I'm also going to surround the turret with some stone furnaces, because they've got spares. It'll be something the biters will attack while they're being shot, give the turret plenty of time to get them killed. So at this point, best we open the map, turn on the pollution overlay and see what's happening. Now most things we do create pollution, but especially the mining. So we want to watch out because that pollution cloud is just going to keep spreading. And once that pollution cloud gets to one of the nests is going to start absorbing pollution. That's essentially like points for it to generate enemies. Once it's generated enough, it will send them at you as a wave attack. But there's two main ways to deal with biters. We can either go on the offensive and wipe out the nest before it can even absorb any pollution, which is what we're going to do here. If you're not used to it, it's advisable to save first. Save scumming may be frowned upon, but a long, slow walk of shame back to try and get to your body when you don't have a gun to defend yourself so you die again is an incredibly frustrating experience. Alternatively, we could just play on the defensive. We could set up walls around our base, we can use a variety of turrets to kill any of those incoming waves. Going to cost resources, but it's going to save time. Now, being that this is space age, there's a good chance we're not going to be here at some point, so we need to set up a good defense before we leave, or not, as you may see later on. Now, what I've done here is killed the nest a really easy way. Walk up, drop a couple of turrets, drop a load of ammo inside them using my mouse thumb button, and walk away. Only thing better than this, if you've got a huge amount of ammo on you, you can control click, so you can put a full stack of ammo into every turret, and then they'll just keep shooting and get everything done for you. Normally for big nests we want something like 30 turrets and thousands of ammo on us, but at this point in the game, nice and easy to do. Something else to be aware of when it comes to choosing offense or defense is the more nests you wipe out, the more you add to the biter's evolution. So over time throughout the game they will evolve and they will become harder to kill. You get to the point where yellow ammo does basically no damage and you just can't kill them with it, so you need more military research to develop better ammunition, better weapon types to be able to fight them. So a lot of the time, defense can be the best option. And in the background here, you see I've just finished setting up a load of the labs, and green science was completed. And that means the blueprint we put down earlier, that's going to start producing green science straight away. We don't need to do anything else, so you can put down blueprints before you've got research unlocked. Next blueprint I'm going to set up is engines with a quick resupply from the mall. It's good to get engines down early as you can, partly because we need them for science coming up and later things in the game, but also because we can't handcraft engines. They have to be done in assembly machines, and we need engines to build a car. And that's the only way we can travel around quickly, so it's the only way we can find resources we need, such as oil. All of our research that was queued is just finished, so we best queue up more. First we're going to go for military 2, so we get grenades. Fastest, easiest way to clear trees, and the faster we can build, the better in a speedrun. Next I'm going to put engines on, because we just built that, we want them crafting. Then we want the red belt, so that we can get higher throughput where we need it, and more importantly, longer distance underground. And then finally we want the power poles. And we really want these power poles because it means we don't need wood anymore. That's the only use of the wood, and it's frustrating to always go and get it. Now we can automate power poles if we get that. We do need steel for power poles, but luckily we unlocked that earlier with the red science. So now we need to build ourselves a steel smelter. Now steel is a weird one. We smelt iron ore into iron plates, and then we smelt iron plates into steel. So what we want is a furnace that inserts into another furnace that allows us to make that steel. So this is a nice compact design that I like to use. I'm just throwing this together. Had to make a new mine for the coal patch to fuel it as well. And then we'll feed this straight onto the bus. Now we've got through all that research pretty quick. So next we're going to put assembly machines Mark II. We're going to put the steel furnaces, which are the same as the stone ones but double the speed, and then we're going to do black science, which is military science, which is black science, which is military science, and we'll keep calling it a different thing every single time we talk about it. Now I've thrown trains in here, don't know why, didn't use it till I was on another planet, absolutely unnecessary in a speed run, but we are researching so fast it really doesn't matter, we might as well just get everything done. It's worth doing the lab research speeds nice and early on as well. Now skip forward a couple of minutes, all I did was build a stone mine and add that to the bus, and now I've laid out and I'm building the black science. We want the military science so that we can have more weaponry later on so we can defend the base properly, so it is worth putting it in nice and early, and it means that you've got walls, grenades and red ammo always available in case you do get attacked. Now you will need bricks, which is a resource we don't have yet, so we're just going to do another small furnace stack with stone going into it. That will cook the stone into bricks, and that completes the black science build for us. So now we're done military science, the next thing for progress is to work towards the blue science. Now this can be a filtering point for a lot of players. A lot of players get towards oil, get confused and leave it alone. So I'm going to show you the nice easy ways to deal with oil and a couple of tricks we can put in there. So we just need the oil gathering and fluid handling research, and then we can go and find any oil naturally occurring and decide that we own it. Now the biggest challenge is finding the oil. So we're going to want a car so that we can travel around quickly, and while we're out here we might as well wipe out any of the biter nests. So bring some turrets and ammo with you, preferably that red ammo we made, because we're always expanding the base, we're always making more pollution, so if we can clear the nests out that means there's no chance we're going to get attacked. We want to keep them spread away while we're still building up our base. So I found an oil patch, I covered it in pump jacks, plugged it in, and as soon as it turned on it unlocked the research of oil processing. So now I'm just going to draw up more blueprints. So I've got my sulfur and sulfuric acid in one, I've got plastic, and then I've got what my actual oil cracking Now you can see here the pipe went red because it's too long, so I just need a pump in between. I put it down the wrong direction, so let's turn that round. We want oil going towards our refineries, not away from it. Now one nuisance that we have is we need the blue science to unlock the advanced oil cracking, so we can't actually use my blueprint yet. So what we're going to do is chuck down some basic refineries and just make petroleum the easy way. I'm not going to build anything proper here because I'm only going to tear it down again. I'm just going to get enough that I can get enough of the blue science made to unlock advanced oil cracking, and then we'll completely move over to that. This is definitely the fastest way to get through this part. Now I'm going to need a new coal mine because plastic uses a huge amount of coal, and we're going to need a huge amount of plastic for making the red circuits. Those are a direct component in creating the blue science, as well as loads of things for the rest of the game. The sulfur and sulfuric acid, way easier. They just need petroleum really, a bit of water, a couple of iron plates, stuff we've got laying around everywhere. So we're only going to fill in some of this blueprint because we don't want to use all the petroleum straight away. We're not crafting very much at the moment. So we just want enough that we can satisfy the requirements of making a blue science to unlock that advanced oil cracking we were talking about. So next I'm going to drop down the blueprint for the red circuits, make sure we got plenty of them being made, route the water around them rather than straight through the middle because that always leads to problems. I'm going to leave room above this and to the side of it because this is nowhere near enough red circuits. For late game we're going to triple this, but for now I'm just going to drop my blue science blueprint. We've got all the components that we need for the blue science, so let's just get all of this running, get it feeding into the labs, and we can get that advanced oil sorted out. As soon as we've got the advanced oil, that gives us plenty that we can fill in the rest of the blueprints that we've only half done so far, and then we can move on to speed running towards bots, which, if you haven't played with bots before, they're an absolute game changer. And it's bots, or rather the lack of, is the reason why we have skipped a lot of steps that most normal players would have done. It's why we haven't built a massive mall, because we can get the bots to just do it for us very quick and easily, so we can spend our time on more important things. Great example of that is building one of these advanced cracking units. It's an absolute pain to put all these pipes in everywhere, it takes absolutely ages, but it is a really important thing that you have this in your base. So this is a really good compact layout here. We've got 8 oil refineries which feed out to 2 chem labs which crack heavy oil down to light, and then 7 chem labs turning light oil into petroleum. And there are pumps in this which are controlled by logic to guarantee this can never gridlock. You will always have the fluids coming out of this that you need, so it's a really handy little unit to have. As I say, all the blueprints are included. Hopefully you find this one quite useful. And I'll show you how to set up the logic on pumps and things like this later on in the video. So now we've got all of our oil set up and I've filled in the other blueprints. Next thing we're going to move on to is electric engines, which are used for bots and a lot of late game components. Following that, we're going to do robot frames, which we need for yellow science and for creating our bots. And then we want batteries, again for bots, a lot of personal equipment, and some of the space components we're going to need. And once we've got all of that built and working, we can put in assembly machines for making construction and logistic bots. We can feed those into a roboport, and that means we'll get robots working. Now when you hover over a roboport, you can see 2 coloured squares. The orange square shows that you are in range of logistics bots, which means they can bring you items or take them from your trash lots. The much larger green area is the construction zone, so any blueprint you put down on that area, construction bots will attempt to build, assuming you have the correct parts in your logistics network. And the dotted yellow lines show that your roboports are connected to other ones, so they all need to be connected like that to be part of the same network. If you press L for Lima on your keyboard, you will see your logistics network and everything that's inside it. Now the logistics network means anything that's within available logistics chests. I.e., the purple ones will force items out into the network, the bots will come and empty that chest regardless. The red chests are just for storage, so have them on the output of machines in your mall for example, bots can come and take things if they need them. The yellow chests are storage for your network, so if you tell your bots to delete something, it's now holding that item, it needs to put it somewhere, so it's going to put it in yellow chests. Think of them as dumping ground. The green chest is something that can request an item but leaves it available to the network. Put it next to your rocket silo with a request for space platform. And the blue chest is a requester chest. You can set it to request certain parts. Once they are in this chest, they are no longer available to the network. Now at this point we only have access to red and yellow anyways, but we'll get the rest later on. Now when you set this up, I highly recommend we use some logic. On your hotbar on the bottom right, we've got either red or green wire. You can pick either one, and all we're going to do is join the inserter to the roboport. And if you click on the roboport to open it, we're just going to tick on Read Robot Statistics. Now we can close that panel, letter E on your keyboard is the easiest way to close anything quickly. And then we're going to open the inserter and tick the Enable Disable button. Under that tick, we're going to choose what is going to control it. In this instance, I want to go to the Letters tab and choose the letter X. And that's because in the RoboPort, X is the number of available logistics bots, i.e. ones that are free to work now and not currently busy. Now next to the X, we want to set the symbol to be less than. So if the number X is less than the number we input, then the inserter is allowed to work. And we'll input, say, 200. So that means right now it will put 200 bots into the network and no more until some of those bots start working. And once they get busy, it's going to have to build more to make sure there's always 200 available. That way, we're not going to produce a silly amount of bots we don't need, but it can automatically scale with the base for us. So this is probably the best way you can set up bots in something that you're growing, especially with a speedrun where we don't have time to come back and mess about with this. It's much better to have this automated system. And we can do the exact same thing with the construction bots, we just use a different letter. And for available construction bots, that's the letter Z for Zulu. Now we've got bots for the base, they're going to reside within the RoboPorts and they're going to access the base's logistics network from those chests we talked about. We've also got personal RoboPorts, so I can carry some construction bots with me and they can use my inventory. So you can see here, I'm placing down some blueprints and I can toggle the bots on and watch them build everything for me from my inventory, save me all the aggro. And this is something we've been waiting for a while. This is going to speed up everything massively. So what is really important to help us with that is getting these RoboPorts down and connected all the way across the base and replacing every chest we got with a logic chest. I'm typically going to go with the red passive provider chest for the output of everything in the mall. That means the bots can grab belts, inserters, anything else they need to build stuff for me, so I can just drop a blueprint and walk away. So skipping forward a sec, I chucked down a load more power and now I'm putting down my big maul. Now this is going to produce everything I'm going to need for the rest of the run. This is going to give me everything I'm going to export into space, everything that's going to get us to the end of the game. This maul is massive and it uses a huge amount of resources. I'm going to be running dry on iron for quite a while trying to run this thing. So I'm going to drop more furnace stacks, get more metals coming into here. Anytime you run out of a material, easy way to fix it, go and make more. What's that? You're out of iron plates? Go and get another mine. We're out of green circuits, go and get an iron mine and a copper mine, get some furnace stacks up, smelt it down, turn it into circuits, there you go, you've got absolutely plenty. One of the most common things in this game I hear is people don't have enough of XYZ resource. All you got to do, just go back to the start of the chain, start making it again, add another lane to a bus, another lane to the bus. You can always make more resource and top it back up. So I've done just that. I've put down tons of mines, tons of furnace stacks. I'm not going to bother showing you all of that. You've seen it all before. I'll put in the link to the Factorio Galaxy website where you can look at my map. You can see everything on the save file, what I built where. So that'll be in the comments below. In terms of progression, we've just dropped a blueprint for the purple science. All we need to do is put that down, walk away, the bots are going to fill that because everything is now available in the mall that they can build absolutely anything from my blueprint. So that's why we want that mall, we want the bots. The main goal of the speed run early on is get those bots working so they can do everything for us. Well, the bots are building a blueprint for me, the mall is running and filling up the chest with various resources, so I'm going to have to go and secure the borders. I need to get rid of any nest that might be in our pollution zone and start to set up defences. So I'm going to plan out where do I want the walls that's going to keep my base defended while I'm not here, because that's obviously a significant change for Space Age versus the vanilla game, is that you don't typically leave the planet. And I should say I've got about 1500 hours in this game, and most of that is pre the 2.0 update, which means biters now work different to how I'm expecting. A lot of my blueprints are old, and that's going to lead us into a few more problems. Now, thanks to the bots allowing us to expand so quickly and efficiently, we've now got the problem that our resource usage is going through the roof and it's hard to keep up with. Something that's really important to do is upgrade your original furnace stacks. Now our furnace stacks were stone furnaces using yellow belts. We were getting a full yellow belt of material coming out of them. What we can do now though is upgrade to the steel furnace, which works at twice the speed, and then upgrade the belts from yellow to red, which means they move twice the speed, so we now get twice the amount of resource out of the same furnace stack, provided we put down more miners to make sure that there's plenty of ore going in, and upgrade that belt as well. Now the easiest way to do this is to get the bots to do it for us obviously, but you don't want to just drag an upgrade planner over it. There's no point upgrading all of your yellow inserters to blue, it's just a waste of resource. So what we're going to do is set up the upgrade planner by clicking on it and then dropping it on our hotbar. Once it's on the hotbar, you can right click it to open its planner, and then we can click on the from side, select things like a stone furnace, and then the to side, upgrade it to the steel furnace. Then when we drag this over it, it's only going to upgrade the things that we selected and nothing else, so it's not going to upgrade those inserters, for example. Now something else a long-term player is probably going to cringe at, but I'm going to turn the bus here just because I'm running out of space to the right, there's a lake there, I don't want to deal with it, and I like having natural formations like that to save areas where I don't have to put up walls and defences. So instead, I'm just going to turn the belt south, and being that I've got the space out of the way, I'm going to drop some blueprints for accumulators and solar panels. Don't need an insane amount of these, we're probably not going to use solar power much on any of our planets, but we do want solar panels for the ships and for a little bit of starting power on other planets, so it's always good to have this put down. And down here out of the way, I'm going to put some of our more advanced components. This is going to be the low density structures and the blue circuits. This is both for yellow science and for being able to launch our rockets. We're going to have a considerable number of rockets launching. We want to be able to make a huge amount of these parts. Now I've built a lot more steam turbines, but I'm still really struggling for power, so it's time to get some nuclear on the go. This is going to be incredibly useful, both in keeping Navis running, so I can make it bigger and bigger and bigger, but I'm also going to drop nuclear power on Gleba and Aquilo, because it's going to make life so much easier for us. So first off, we just need a load of centrifuges that are going to turn our uranium ore into lots and lots and lots of useless uranium, and a very small amount of useful uranium. So we just get some base maintenance and some more mines going down, and then more furnace stacks, and more mines, and then more furnace stacks, and then more mines. But here we are launching our first rocket, so I thought we'd just stop in for this bit. Now I never had the silver spoon achievement in mind, but this happens to be just shy of 7 hours at launch. So that beats the vanilla game speedrun achievement. Now we could have done that in around about 4 hours, but we're building a much bigger scale here to make sure that we can carry on with the space age and actually get everything done that we need to. Once we've launched that first platform, we unlock a few more recipes for parts for our space platform. Now the space platform item itself, we're going to need a lot of this. I actually only build 4 assemblers here, but I'm going to double that very shortly because we need a lot of this produced very quickly to fit into the speedrun. And a delay in building the ships has a long impact. Now the first thing we're going to need from space is some space science, so I'm just going to drop a blueprint of a little platform that I made a long time ago that makes space science. Is it very good? Not really. It does the job, it's cheap, it's easy, we throw it up there, we forget it exists, and we get plenty of space science. Job done. Now I don't really use quality in a speed run, but there is one place it's really handy to have, and that is with your asteroid collectors. Almost everything else in the game, quality just means it works faster. We can compensate for that by having more of the same thing. But with the asteroid collectors, they get extra arms on them. It's really good, especially for our late game ship that we're going to need at the end. So definitely set up this assembler with a couple of quality modules in it. Now, it's a low chance of getting a high quality one, so all you want to do is have this output into a chest, which goes in a chest, which goes in a chest, so you can just stockpile thousands of these. It absolutely doesn't matter, as long as you get some high quality ones that can help us at the end. Now we've got a giant wall that builds everything's set up, we're pretty much done with Navis for the moment, so all I'm going to do now is set up my defences. I want some walls around the edges, keeping those biters out. We're still going to be making science, and we're going to be producing materials that are shipped off to other planets, so we're going to be generating a lot of pollution still on this planet, attracting biters in. Now the best defense against them usually is flamethrowers, but again remember I said I'm used to the pre 2.0 update, so we do run into some problems here because I only set this up with flamethrowers and leave it at that, so we'll see what happens there. Ignoring my incompetence at that point though, you can see I'm just dropping down blueprints for walls with flamethrowers in them. It's got roboports built into the blueprint so that I can just slap them down, walk away, and eventually the bots will go and get that all built for us. Now, a space platform is basically built. I've added another one so that I've got more space science coming down. So I'm just going to go and speed that up a little bit. Now, the way that auto request works is it will request a full rockets load of an item. So if you want 3 asteroid collectors, that's nice. It's going to wait till you got 10 and send you a full rocket of 10. So it can be really helpful to do a manual launch with a lot of the basic stuff like that. So your cargo containers, your collectors, your grinders, we could do one launch for a small ship like this manually from our inventory and not launch loads of resources we don't need up there. At this point, resources are still expensive. Later on, we're not going to care, but for now, it just speeds things up. It's a better way of doing it. Now at this point, the base is getting pretty big. We're producing stuff constantly, so everything's working, and we've got about 180 steam turbines, i.e. we've got a major problem. We are doing really, really poorly for power, so we need to get nuclear on the go and get that sorted out for us. Now again, all my blueprints are from pre the update, but I don't have time to make a new one from scratch, so I'm just going to modify this one. The main difference in the update is how the logic works. We can now read the temperature of these reactors, and we can read whether it's got fuel in it, which means we can have inserting fuel as a much simpler system. Nuclear reactors will just burn whatever fuel you put in them, and that's quite wasteful, so what we want to do here is put down a decider combinator. We're going to use green wire here to connect the nuclear reactor itself to the input of the decider combinator, and we're going to make sure that when we open the reactor, read temperature and read fuel is ticked. In the combinator, we're going to set a condition. The letter T, which is our temperature, must be less than 520. I'm going to add another condition, and I'm going to change OR to AND. The second condition is just going to be if the fuel equals 0. So when both these conditions are met on the output, I set it to a tick, and I hit 1. So anytime there's no fuel and the temperature's too low, then we're going to allow the inserter to put a piece of fuel in. So open the inserter, enable disable top right, tick that. We're going to change to the green tick, equals 1. That means it can only operate at that point. You should do this for all reactors. It makes them a lot more efficient. It's going to save you a lot of that nuclear fuel, especially if you're shipping it around. So here I'm having to use solar panels just to make some nuclear fuel to get this online, because that's how badly I've let the power drop in this base. So as I said earlier, really important to pay attention and get that done early. Always get your power production up. Anytime we're playing with nuclear power, we want Cova-X enrichment as well. Without it, one centrifuge will power one nuclear reactor at about a 1-to-1 ratio, but we want to be able to export nuclear fuel as well. So Cova-X, quite a slow process, but what it's going to do is take in 40 of the good uranium and give out 41. So we're going to set that up to cycle round and round and round and round and round, and nothing's going to come out of that until we got hundreds of Cova-X. But once we do, we'll be able to make tons of fuel and never need to worry about uranium mining or anything like that ever again. Now up to now everything's been belt fed, but we're going to get some slightly complex components going forth from here, and we're going to be working remotely. So it's always good to set down some little bot controlled assemblers. This is going to make all the parts for my rockets and various components that I'm going to need for the late game. Now that we've got those logistic chests that we talked about, specifically the requester chest, belts are almost superfluous at this point. So now the power's sorted, everything's running and building stuff for us. All we need to do is empty our inventory because you can't carry anything with you, and then take off into space to one of our moving platforms so we can go to another planet. And I'm going to start with Vulcanus. Now before we came up here, we got the ship to request a load of parts for us, so that when we get to Vulcanus, instead of building a whole base from scratch and doing everything ourselves, we've already brought it with us from Narvis. So we want all of the basic machinery, we want assemblers, we want chem labs, we want belts, inserters, all that kind of stuff, which for those of you that don't have this on a second monitor will notice I forgot labs. But we can always send the ship back to Narvis, grab more stuff, come back again. We've fully automated that process. The mall down there's building everything, so it's not really a big deal. It just slows us down in building. So it's one of the mistakes we made here that could have saved us a little bit of time. So once we're on Vulcanus, we want to mine a rock. That'll unlock some research. We want to mine some calcite. That'll unlock another one. Now there's a really nice power recipe up here for sulfuric acid being turned into steam that we can run through steam turbines. That's going to power our base indefinitely, so it's well worth getting this set up early with just a solar panel there to kickstart the first pump jack. Now for the biggest time save, I'm just going to put down my blueprint of my base that I built in my last speedrun. Now I haven't edited the blueprint to make it perfect or anything like that, I'm just chucking down a base that did work. So everything's going to be in the wrong place because the planet is generated different, but we can work around that, we can get everything running quick and easy. Now Vulcanus, it's cheap to produce most things, but I'm not going to bother exporting to other planets from here because again it's a speed run, not a mega base run. But I'm also not going to import anything here. I'm going to make the blue circuits and everything else on the planet. Now the goal of this run is to get to the edge in under 40 hours, and for that we're going to need a pretty big ship. And that ship's going to take a long time to build and even longer to fuel itself up, get its ammo and everything else, so I'm going to drop that down now. So skipping past all the basic building that you know how to do, this is all we need for a base on Vulcanus. We don't need a bigger scale than this for a speed run. It's really important if you're doing a kind of run where you get attacked a lot, so you turn the sounds off on the notifications, turn them back on, because until this point we didn't realise that Narvis is being invaded. The reason is because the updates from 1.1 to 2.0, the way that my defence walls work, don't work anymore. Or at least they don't work without the lasers, which are in the blueprint, but I hadn't bothered to put in them all, so there are no lasers going out there. So what I'm doing now is quickly slapping down some stuff to protect the base, and I'm going to have to fly back to Narvis to deal with this, to fly back to Vulcanus to finish what I'm doing. This is a major inconvenience that you do not need in a speedrun. And whilst we're dealing with that, you might see the red power symbol coming up on everything on the base, which means it's not connected to a power network anymore. Now you might think that's because one of these lovely biters has eaten through an important power pole, but actually it's worse than that. Turns out some idiot, when he was making his nuclear fuel, forgot that it needs iron plates. So I put some in manually, slapped down some solar just to run the machine, get some of this nuclear fuel made and fill up the nuclear reactors, and now the base is back online. We can fix that in a minute by just adding iron plates to the requester chest. It's a beautiful thing in the game where something so simple can destroy such a complex process. So with that ordeal out of the way, we're back on Vulcanus, and what we need to do now is secure a patch of tungsten, which means removing one of those demolishers. And I'm going to do this the easy way. I've got 86 turrets and 1,400 red ammo. That's going to be plenty to take out a small demolisher. The turrets I brought with me from Narvis, the red ammo is actually made on Vulcanus in this base, so you'll see that in the blueprint, and the fact we had to go back and deal with the biters gave us plenty of time to produce tons of ammo, but we don't need anything like that much. In fact, once we're done, we've still got 64 turrets and 1,000 red ammo left. So, red drills down on the ore patch, that automates tungsten, everything is automated here, we've got the science on the go, we're ready to leave Vulcanus, and we're going to head off to Fulgora next, with a stopover at Narvis to resupply the ship, so we've got everything we need to build that base. Now I find that Vulcanus is pretty much standard Factorio, you're just using the lava for stuff and getting rid of stones instead. It doesn't change the game too much, but I absolutely love the way they've done Fulgora because it is a very different game to play. So drop all the items from your ship, pick them all up again, get your bots so that we can mine stuff easily, and we need to go and find one of the ruins so that we unlock the blueprint for the recyclers. And then we just need to find a decent bit of space that we can build a base on, and hopefully somewhere that we can easily get scrap to as well. Now, I was very surprised with the amount of space I get here. You could build a really big base on this seed, so who knows, might do that later on. But for now, what we need to do is get a load of lightning rods down and connect them to accumulators. Make sure you bring all that stuff with you. If you don't bring accumulators, it's going to take you a hell of a long time to get this place set up. So it's absolutely essential bringing accumulators for a speedrun. Now, I could have brought a lot more with me here. I could have brought the raw resources like bricks, but I thought I'd just make it here. It's worth doing something so that you're still playing the game rather than just resupply it all out of Narvis. Where's the fun in that? Although, ironically, as I say that, I realise I haven't brought anything for elevated rails, and so I am actually sending the ship back to get refined concrete so that I can build that, because I'm going to need to cross this oil lake here to be able to get scrap across to the land where I can actually build a base. While it's happening, I'm stood around not really doing anything, and that's one of the points I want from this video. You can spend a huge amount of time standing around doing absolutely nothing and still beat it within the 40 hours, as long as things are progressing the right way. If I was going for a world record run, absolutely not, but then I would have actually noted down what parts to take to what planet, prepped it all properly. We don't really need that level of serious effort here. So the parts have come in. I'm going to build my first and only train station for this run, and we're just going to move the scrap from this little island we're on to the big island next to us where we've got more space for building an actual base. And I'm sure this will surprise no one, I've got the blueprint from my previous run from my Fulgora base as well. It's going to make life a lot easier once again. Now the main time sink here is making enough recyclers to make enough more resources to make enough more recyclers. But once we've got enough up, we've got a nice simple system here using splitters to separate the individual parts. And we pull them off the belt and put them in chests. Now the problem a lot of people have with the Fulgora base is we get too many of one item, that fills the chest, everything backlogs, and we stop producing anything, so we've got to deal with that. So what I've got here is a set of inserters that feed into the recyclers to destroy the components, and they're only enabled if there's more than a certain amount in my logistics network. Now as I said, this is a blueprint. Last time I built it I had a lot less space. So separately, I've got a load of requester chests feeding into recyclers, and those have their requests set by combinators monitoring the network. That is a handy little trick, so I'm going to show you how to do it. The first thing we need is a decider combinator, and we're going to connect the roboport to the input side of this. That means it can read what's in the logistics network, so it knows what's in all of my red chests. Now I'm going to set the condition to iron plates greater than and 200. And on the output side, I'm going to set iron plates, but I don't want input count because that would empty everything I have in the network. So instead I'm going to click the little dot on the 1 and then change 1 up to 200. So as soon as there's too many plates, the bots will now move 200 of them into the requester chest, which will be destroyed by the recycler. So the iron plates aren't moving at the minute because I don't have enough of them to do that. So I'm going to do a copper one just to prove the point. I'm going to do my shift right click, shift left click to copy the recipe across. Change these across to copper instead, and you'll see they start moving instantly. So with all that set up, we've got a fully automated base on Fulgora. We can now leave it at the 16-hour mark, and we are on our way to Gleba. Now you can see there's a lot more stuff on my ship this time. I'm bringing nuclear for this place. I'm not going to deal with the power on there because it is an absolute hassle. And speaking of hassles, the first thing we need to do on Gleba is run around a lot. There's two main resources we need to find, jelly nut and yamako. And we're also going to have to find some of the iron and copper rocks and mine those just to unlock another technology. Now this isn't going to surprise you, but I've got a blueprint of my base. It did surprise me though, because it's actually a really good blueprint. It did a great job, produced science at a good rate, and took no real work to deal with. So I'm pretty happy with this blueprint. Only want some minor tweaks to make it really good. So we get nuclear up first, just so that we can get the fuel in there and start it heating up so we've got power as soon as we need it. Now the main thing I need at this point is some of the pentapod eggs, which I get from killing enemy nests. And I need a lot of them to build my biochambers, which is what we're going to use instead of assemblers essentially on this planet. Now the big differences on Gleba are that you can't mine the base resources, the iron and copper, and also everything seems to have a spoil time. So you can only hold on to something so long before it degrades into spoilage, which is a bit of a pain. Or the pentapod eggs themselves, they spoil into a load of enemies that are going to kill you, so be careful on that one. But I grabbed a few eggs here, I'm going to turn them into biochambers. And the main thing I want is the biochamber that turns eggs into even more eggs. That way I have plenty to keep making more biochambers. Other than that, same as any other planet, either import the resources you need or build them on site. Plug in the belts, plug in any pipes, and then we can walk away with a fully automated base making science for us, which is what we mainly need from here. We're also going to want a load of that carbon fibre. So I'm going to want an agricultural tower at where the Yamako grows and another one where the jelly nut grows. Now I also need to be able to supply these with seeds, so I'm going to have to run roboports all the way out there to make sure that I can fill up the chest that feeds into said tower. Once that's done, we can turn the base on, watch the belt fill up with nutrients, that will feed everything instead of using electrical power because that's how Gleba works, and we have a running base. And just like my other bases, this is fully self-sufficient. It can create all of the parts that we need for building rockets. You can see there's circular belts full of copper and iron bacteria which spoil over time into ore and then they're pulled off and smelted. And we have biochambers that can make rocket fuel and LDS. Now it doesn't build them at a high rate, but we don't really need that much. Because it's a speed run though, for absolute safety I am going to import all of those components to make sure we got plenty around, because we are going to lift quite a lot of rockets off of here. We need a lot of that agricultural science coming back to Narvis. And that's probably the most frustrating part about Gleba, is the fact that the science spoils as well. So the longer it's existed, the less efficient it is, so you won't get one full science pack out of one, you'll get like 20% of it. So instead of the research needing 1,000 agricultural packs, you're actually going to need about 5,000 to satisfy that requirement. That means we need a good rate of production, with a ship coming in quite frequently to bring it back to Narvis so that we can use it for the research. And it does unlock a lot of different research that we're going to need to be able to complete the game. We're going to need a carbon fibre, advanced asteroid processing, the rocket turrets, and Aquilo itself. And it's also well worth getting the mech suit done, because it makes Aquilo so much less aggro. It's not mandatory, and it does take a long time, but we've got plenty of science available that we can get that done without slowing down. Now the big ship that we've got building is going to be for the endgame, and it's going to take us a long time to get that ready to use. What we're going to want to do for now is build a good ship that can easily get to Aquilo and back so that we can move resources in. Unlike other planets, Aquilo cannot be self-sufficient. We're going to need to import everything we need to craft rockets, as well as a lot of raw resources for building the things on the planet, including science. It's going to want parts from Vulcanus, it's going to want things from Gleba and from Fulgora, as well as tons of the stuff that we make on Narvis. So for the next few hours of the game, we are in limbo. We need that carbon fibre research so that we can create a load, take it back to Narvis to create rocket turrets, to put them onto our new ship that we're making so that it's possible for us to go to Aquilo. But then we still can't go there until we've done that planetary research as well. So all I do here is I sit around upgrading all the other planets, do everything remotely, and increase our rates where we can. So skip forward a little while, and I'm just hoping we've got enough of that agricultural science to get this research done. Really annoying to have to wait for another ship to go back, but it looks like we're just about going to make it with a few science packs to spare. So we can head off to Aquilo now, and we've got a lot more resources on the ship this time. A lot of the time we were waiting for this research to happen, we were just filling the ship up with thousands of concrete, refined concrete, and all other sorts of resources we're going to need to get a base on Aquilo. Now for this ship it needs to be supplied with explosives so that it can create the rockets and it can go through the asteroids to get to Aquilo. The big ship can make them itself, but it wasn't worth having explosive manufacturing on this ship. Now up to this point, space has been pretty safe. There are some asteroids out there, but they're not really a threat to us. Now that's not the case, we need to be a lot more careful. And here you can see what I did was didn't put enough iron plates on the ship, so it couldn't make enough ammunition, so now it's getting wiped out on its trip back to Gleba. So yeah, plan ahead a bit more. Since that point I've updated the blueprint, I've changed the requests on it so that it has a lot more metal available so that we're not going to run into this problem again. So if you use my blueprints they'll be fine, but it is something, if you're building your own, make sure you bring an insane amount of resources for making the ammunition. So here we're just building out Aquilo. And the gameplay change here is that it's very, very cold, so everything is frozen. So to have anything functional, we need heat pipes and we need something to warm them up. Now nuclear reactors do work, but we got heat exchangers from Gleba and they're pretty easy to use. And it's very easy to produce a huge amount of solid fuel on Aquilo, so we're just going to use those. Now my ship here took a lot of damage, I'm just coasting it back under no thrust back to Gleba. With no thrust and being this close, we're unlikely to encounter any asteroids. I'm demolishing as much as I can so that we can recover the space platform and belts, which means I can get the asteroid grabbers working again and we can have it producing fuel and some basic ammunition. Now in my head I was going to resupply Gleba, but it turns out it was pretty easy to just bring it up some metal plates and then take it straight back to Navis. So on Aquilo, I've laid out a lot of what I want. The first thing I need to do is use some solar power, which is pitiful on Aquilo, but it's enough to get one chem lab running, turning ice into water so that we can run the nuclear plant. As soon as that starts running and providing power, that will give the chem lab plenty of power to give us more than enough water. Well, enough water for now while we're not using much power. Later on we're going to need 3 labs, otherwise we're going to run into problems. Now another challenge with Aquilo is that a lot of the floor you can't place items on. We're going to need to craft ice platforms, which we can put first, but you can't build on that, so then we're going to need concrete as well to put on top of that before you can build. So it makes bots really useful here. You definitely want a power source in your armour that is not solar. Now I want my ship to be okay, but it's definitely taking its time to build it. So I come up with a good idea here. I put down a second ship as a backup, which you're going to see later is a very good plan. And I'm going to put another rocket silo on Navi so that we can launch a lot faster. Hindsight here, I should have built a lot more rocket silos. I think a minimum of 8 would have sped up this run a huge amount. Because it's easy to stockpile the resources for them. We don't use them all the time. We just want lots to launch quickly when we do want them. Now, even though I've conquered this planet twice before, I've still underestimated it this time, and I did not bring enough of those heat pipes, which is going to bring my building to a standstill in a minute. So now I'm standing around, waiting for my ship to be fixed before it can fill up with the parts I need to bring it back to me. This is a killer in a speedrun. This has taken out a lot of the time where I could be being useful. Instead, I'm stood around doing nothing. So it's good to actually plan things out before, or cheat a little bit and see what I've done on my map. So I end up using 842 heat pipes just on this planet. So I should have brought a hell of a lot more in the first shipment, and it would have saved me this aggro. Now a lot of what I'm doing up here, the way I'm building, is with things that I don't have. So I'm using Q to pick the item with the mouse on top of it, that puts it in my hand, and then I can place it as a ghost. And if I can't place it somewhere, I can hold shift to force place it, which means it will tell the bots that it needs landfill underneath or concrete or whatever else, so they can automatically do that kind of thing. So that makes building a lot easier up here. We've got the hot fluoroketone here. We only want a small amount of that because everything else is going to be made cold and then it's going to be warmed up in processes and then put back into the same tank. So if we fill the tank, we're going to backlog everything and run into a problem. So what I suggest here, we use a green wire again from the cryogenic lab into the tank that's going to be filling, and we set it to disable the lab anytime there is more than, say, 4,000 fluid. That means there's plenty available to work with, and it's never going to fill up that tank. It's only going to create it if we use up too much of it. Now, I haven't really mentioned modules up to this point. You can't go wrong with productivity modules. They are fantastic. The most important place for them is in your labs. That's going to save you a huge amount. Throughout this run, we've saved about 12% of all of our materials by having prod 2s in all of the labs. Now, in my opinion, in a speedrun, it's not worth the aggro dealing with prod 3s, we'll just stick to the prod 2s. But we want to take a stack of them to every planet, and you'll see I've used them in the rocket silos on every planet. And in a lot of places where we're using rarer resources, so things that are the final components before it creates the science packs, those typically have them in. Now, what's a little different here is that this is a speed run. We need things done quickly as possible, not efficiently as possible, but we are limited on the resources we have. So we need to find a good balance between prod modules and speed modules. What I typically like to do is fill the machine with prod modules and then put down as many beacons as I can fit in the area with speed modules in. Do be aware though, this uses a huge amount of power. A lot of people hit a point where they start using modules and they put loads down without looking, and then that will kill their power. They go into a power spiral and that can almost end your run. It's a lot of aggro to deal with. So be very careful when you start throwing down modules. Keep an eye on your power. And we do absolutely have a power issue here, so I'm going to import another nuclear reactor and a load more of the heat exchangers as well, so that we can turn this into a much bigger reactor, give us a lot more power. Which means I can use even more modules and speed things up even more. And you may have noticed I actually just added another nuclear reactor on Narvis as well, because that was running very low on power. Again, having bots do everything remotely, build everything for you, no aggro, absolutely game changing. So if you've never gotten to that point before, that might make sense of why any videos you see, people seem to just rush through all the research just to get the bots. It's because it really does change things. So all we really want from Aquilo now is the science, so we can start taking that back and getting the last few things done. We're going to need the quantum processors so that we can research and build railguns, because it's not possible to get to the edge without railguns, at least with the kind of ships we're using. And then finally, we'll have to do the Promethean science research. We don't need to make any of the packs, but this research is what unlocks the ability to go to the edge, which is the completion criteria for the speedrun. Now, another little trick for Aquilo, we're going to need a huge amount of ammonia up here, but a byproduct is ice. We're not going to be able to use up enough ice to stop our chest from filling up. So bring some recyclers with you, put them in back to back so that they feed into each other to destroy stuff, and just like we did on Fulgora, we're going to wire those into a requester chest to the network and say if we have more than 4,000 ice blocks, chuck a load in here, get them destroyed, and that way we never get backlogged on it. Now, one component that's very in demand on this planet is holmium plates, which come from Fulgora. I got very lucky on having lots of space available on Fulgora. I did not get very lucky on having lots of locally available scrap. So here I'm just remotely extending my area by putting down more roboports and moving drills around just to get as much last few bits of scrap through as possible. We basically run out at the end of this run, which is quite surprising. But other than waiting for ships to move resources around, we're bringing in tungsten, we're bringing in carbon fibre, things like that for the crafting on Aquilo. That aside, we're just maintaining bases, watching what's going on, checking on power, things like that, while we wait for science to craft so we can get it back to Narvis and unlock these last few sciences. Now, we were looking around a lot of places, but we weren't watching this ship, and it's taken some serious damage. If you let the iron plates run out, we don't have any more ammo, we can't stop the asteroids, and it will wipe out everything. And unfortunately, the first thing to go typically is the asteroid grabbers, which then mean we can't get materials to make ammo, and it goes downhill very, very quickly. So we're going to rename this one as Good Thing We Made a Backup, and the other one as Scrap. We're going to leave that just floating around Gleba for the rest of the run as a reminder of what not paying attention does. It's not the biggest problem because we overbuilt Narvi, so we can easily build more ships. And if you ever lose power up here, it can be an absolute nightmare. So something I like to do is have a couple of accumulators separated from the network. So we'll plug them in, charge them up, and then disconnect them. And that way, if we ever run out of water for the reactor for some reason, we've got plenty of power to run the chem labs, rather than trying to do the old solar panel trick again, which is a bit of a pain. For this late game science, my science rate seems to average around about 120, whenever it comes in from Gleba. By this point, the big ship has been in existence for quite some time now. It's fully built except for the railguns, and it's been grabbing loads of asteroid material, so it should be fully stocked on water, ice, and all of its ammunition. We can send that over to Aquilo so it can pick up the railguns and us. Now, it's only one railgun per rocket, so there's going to be a lot more launches on top of the science you've already launched, so make sure you are always bringing in the basic resources needed to manufacture rockets, your blue circuits, your LDS, and your rocket fuel. Now I'm nearly done with my Promethean science research. I'm going to hop on the big ship ready to go at the end, check that it's fully powered, got all its ammunition and everything else. We're currently at 26 hours and 29 minutes. Just waiting for final research. And there it is. Let's fly to the edge. Now this footage is sped up to 1200% speed, and it's still going to take us a minute 45 to actually get there. So in that time, I thought I'd leave some of my thoughts of how this has gone. Now, being that this is not my first attempt at a speedrun, it was very relaxed. I wasn't stressed at all doing it, I was pretty confident going in. As a result, I made a huge amount of mistakes, wasted a lot of time, and I'm going to end up here with a time of 26 hours, 48 minutes. Now, by no means is that a bad time, but I'm very confident I could get a sub 20 hour run if I put the effort in. And put the effort in means a few things. The first thing is going to be remaking all the blueprints. None of them are tidy, and they're definitely not made for speedrunning. They work fine, but they could all be improved massively. The second thing, write proper shopping lists. Each planet has a load of requirements and you're always going to forget something. If you do it like I did, you just sit there, guess, fly off and see what happens. A result of that, I spent a lot of time sitting around doing absolutely nothing, waiting for ships to bring me parts. That's a big waste of time. Gleba research seems to be a bit of a bottleneck, so I think I'd do that first next time as well. As I said at the start, I will link all of the blueprints, the save file and the galaxy link if anyone is interested. Now I appreciate I glossed over the new planets a little bit here, however the point of this video was how to get that speedrun achievement. But if you'd like to see me do the planets properly and explain them, let me know. If you found this useful, or if you want to critique it in any way, please do so in the comments. I'd love to see what people think of this. Do you want more content like this? Do you want it to be more entertaining? Do you want it to come faster, slower, more in depth? Let us know what you think about it. And now, I'm just going to leave this ship to die. It's low on power, it's low on ammo, we'll see how far it can get. Huh, not very. Cheers.